And I'm Matt Hanna.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannas,
where we talk about all your favorite scary movies.
This week we are covering a new release that we're really excited for, The Substance.
Yeah, and we saw it last night in theaters, and we both walked out in either giggling or in silence because we couldn't really put our sentences together.
Can
after
you
seeing it.
edit in my reaction after?
Sure, I can try to do that.
Because it is something else.
I don't want to just say, oh, it's good, because like we're going to keep it spoiler free here to start. But I came out and was like, I don't even know what to say other than it's good, because I was like so shocked by it. It was something else.
Yeah.
And I forgot. The best way I could put it is I forgot you could make horror movies like that. And I think that like a lot of the stuff we've been seeing is like pretty tame. And this was one where like there was a point in the movie in which my jaw dropped and then it never closed for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Like, and that was an hour probably where I stood there with like, and I mean, it was funny. There was so much going on in this movie and I loved it. So like I said, we'll keep it spoiler free for now, but in about 10 minutes, we will go fully into spoilers and tell you what we thought.
Yeah, so some background to start off is that this is obviously a new release, a 2024 release. It's considered a satirical body horror, and it was written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. She's French, so I might have butchered that. But,
good enough.
And the film stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. It's actually Coralie's second film, this is like such an amazing second film. The first film I don't think had like a very wide release. So this is definitely her moment. I'm very excited that she exists.
Oh, and Revenge was her first. I know Revenge. I haven't seen it. That's supposed to be very, very
really
good.
good reviews.
Yeah.
And she lists David Cronenberg and David Lynch as two of her filmmaking inspirations.
Saw
and
both of
you
those.
can totally see it in like throughout. It's so fun.
It was kind of a weird mix because there were some very Lynchian moments and then definitely a lot of Cronenberg inspiration. I think he'd
with
be
the
proud.
body horror. Yeah.
And body horror with like meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a big part of his films.
So this premiered at the Cannes Film Festival this year, the 77th, and was selected to compete for the Palme d'Or in its main competition section, and it won Best Screenplay, which is like a huge honor. Yep. Yeah, very exciting. So some additional background that doesn't really spoil the movie is that originally Ray Liotta was actually cast
in Dennis Quaid's role, right?
In Dennis Quaid's role in February of 2022. And he passed away before he could film his scenes because he passed away just 3 months later.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah. I would say Dennis Quaid kind of knocked this out of the park, though. So
he really did.
It felt like a perfect casting of him. So
yeah,
pretty impressive.
And they do mention it in the credits. They like thank.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Him, yeah. Additionally, Demi Moore. So her character's 50. She's actually 61. And she said she felt really nervous as a 61-year-old. Plus, in general, going full frontal nudity. And she credited Margaret Qualley, who was 29 at the time of filming, with like really helping her feel comfortable, especially because the two of them would have to be naked in a scene together.
Yeah.
And Margaret Qualley has also revealed in interviews, and I know you know this one, that her boobs in the movie are not her own.
In the naked scenes, yeah.
Yes.
They needed to make hers match Demi Moore's, I guess. So.
Yeah, it was prosthetic. She said, unfortunately, there's no magic boob potion, so we had to glue those on. Coralie found an incredible prosthetic team to endow me with the rack of a lifetime. Just not my lifetime. Which I love. That's so funny.
She was also pretty outstanding in this movie, and I think it's really cool as she is up and coming in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Like she's a big deal. She was in The Leftovers but she's like clearly like a young, on this new wave, I would say, of like actors. And it's funny because a couple of them were actually 4 actors were all minor parts in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And it was her, Austin Butler, Mikey Madsen, and that's how you say her name, right? From Menorah. Mm-hmm. And I can't think of her name. Sydney Sweeney. Yeah. We're all in that. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. And that's also obviously a movie about like the new wave of actors coming in and replacing these old actors. And so to like actually have 4 of these up and coming, like Tarantino, clearly a savant.
Yeah. So I think we can get more into the movie. The back of the box summary is: a fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what all the trailers show you, right?
Yeah. What did you expect just from like the trailers and the back of the box?
No, I think I expected that. The main, there was 2 images that were going around that I think were the only things I really like saw. And there was one with a woman laying on the floor with a zipper running up her back, stitch zipper, like. So obviously I knew body horror element. And then the other was that photo of Margaret Qualley doing a split in front of the photo of Demi Moore in the back. So I kind of assumed there was something where she was going to be a younger version of herself.
Yeah, I didn't really know much of anything going in. I just saw the trailer, and I heard that there was some wild and body horror, and that was really all I knew going in. And I was like, okay, here I am. I'm ready.
And it delivered.
Yeah. So overall, did you find this scary?
Yeah, you know what? I can look at a text I sent after we walked out because I couldn't like put it together like exactly how I felt. So let me pull this up. I sent it to our buddy Matt. Oh, I can't find it. I said it's funny, it's horrifying, it's deeply sad, it's obscene. There were 2 times I thought I was going to gag. It's like good, but I don't know how or who I could recommend it to.
Yeah.
I mean, it is scary. It's also very, very funny. And I think overall it's extremely sad, was like what I'd said there. It is a deeply sad movie.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like scary. It's definitely not like jumpy scary or anything. It's more like scary in that this is real life and this is how the world makes women feel.
Especially in this industry.
To have a new, younger, better version of ourselves.
Yeah.
But the body horror really did get me. I hid 7 times.
7? Well,
Yeah.
I had 2 almost gags, so we count that.
Yeah, 2 almost gags. I probably had like many almost gags. Actually, the worst scene for me was Dennis Quaid eating shrimp.
That's such a funny setup.
like-
They do all these. They're using this like fish-eyed lens, which also feels kind of the
Yeah, it's unsettling.
Lynchian surrealist feeling to it, and it's just him like mouth close up, just like disgustingly eating shrimp. And I was like, okay, I know what we're in for. It was actually a great primer because if you can't get through that, you're not going to get through the rest of the movie.
No, you really can't.
Yeah.
I do think they had this really fun like food motif running through the film where food was used to show the process or like the horror throughout the entire film.
Very much so. And I think that it's because food is like linked to this women's insecurities and the way that they're treated in the industry, which is like what a big theme of this movie is.
Of course. I loved the way this movie was shot. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I think it's stunning looking. The fisheye lens were really fun, and the colors were really bright and over the top, and I really liked that. I think it fits with the overall campy style of the movie. And I think it makes, I don't know, it just makes it more interesting to sit through because you're looking at something so fun and vibrant and goofy at times.
It also gives it a timeless feel because like I think this was very clear that it's not really supposed to be what era of Hollywood, era of life that it's in. It really doesn't, because there's like definitely some 90s feels to it, but with like the aerobic stuff. But I mean, it felt like it could have been today or it could have been the 70s. Like it really was all over.
And I know that something we talk about on this podcast a lot is texture, and we love when a film has texture and is like gritty. What did you feel about this movie not having
I leaned
texture?
over to you and I said, this is a movie that it should be shot digitally, which it clearly like was, because it is supposed to be about like pristine bodies, right? It's supposed to be like so clean cut to the point of being inhuman is what it looked like. And I think it also lends itself to what I was calling like its maximalist light style, because it wasn't full maximalist, which I know you're not a Baz Luhrmann fan.
No.
But it borders on that with things kind of being beyond what we actually have in reality.
It was the kind of maximalist style that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's just like breaking through enough where all of a sudden you're like thrown off like, oh, this is, like I said, more than real life. Like when she kicks somebody and they go flying across the screen like a kung fu movie.
Yeah.
And obviously the I think the fisheye lens is a big part of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk performances.
Oh,
we're still spoiler free.
I will say right away, I don't know much about Demi Moore at all. I don't even know what I've seen with her in it. I did not know she had this in her. This was a phenomenal performance. And maybe I should have known she had it in her. But
I would love for her to be up for supporting.
Yeah. Or is she lead?
I don't know. Lead. She's kind of like, it is a lot of time is split between the two of them. So I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think that she did a phenomenal job.
When I say I didn't know she had a dinner, it's like she was the part that made me feel like deeply sad in this movie. There were these amazing scenes with her where she didn't even have to like say much, that was her reflecting on herself and like being insecure in her skin, and the way that she was able to portray it with just like facial expressions made me so like sad and uncomfortable. And like it was like created a lot of tension in there, and I don't know, it was very, very impressive, especially because she's like such a beautiful woman.
Yeah, I think when an actor can make you feel things without saying a word, obviously that's a sign that they're putting on a good performance, and I think that was the case for her, right? Like just from facial expressions in the first like 20 minutes or so, we may hear her say a couple words. That's really it. And so everything we're getting from her is just through her facial expressions. And I think it's really successful, which is why I feel like she should be in awards contention. And I know that it's rough because horror movies just don't end up for awards contention. That's just not how it is. And that
especially
sucks.
One as gross as this.
Yeah.
You got to think
this
that
is certainly not going to make
committee is not going to make it through this movie.
Well, it's so funny, like, obviously Get Out is one of the only modern horror movies that has been up. And just thinking about how different these two movies are. Like, it makes sense that would be the one that they would nominate. This is just completely...
like I said, I don't think people will be able to get past the, like, grossness of it. Well, but that's, like, what's amazing
with
about
Toni
it.
Collette in Hereditary. Should have been up for lead actress. Probably should have won. Like, it's the biggest snub...
In my opinion, I agree.
In recent years. So
I think that performance from her is so uncomfortable that, again, I don't think that these like people that select that can actually make it through that movie.
Yeah.
Like they don't like to feel things, apparently.
No.
They don't like to feel uncomfortable, which we like horror movies. So clearly we're choosing to want to feel uncomfortable. And I will say, back to the substance, it very much did that. It achieved making me feel very uncomfortable throughout. I wanted to say something about her not speaking a lot. I was going to say it. We talked about this after, but it seemed like a very deliberate choice to have both the leads, who are women, not speak a lot, because that is the theme of the movie, is like that women in the industry are looked at for their beauty, not for their ability, or their talent. So to like keep them quiet throughout and not give them much to say, I think is playing into that, and like very much felt like a creative choice.
Yeah.
Well, are we ready to start spoiling? Or is there anything else we got to say?
I think just before we go spoiler free, I do want to echo again the body horror in this.
This movie's not for everybody. Is that what you're going to say?
If you can't do body horror, you can't watch this.
It's not the worst body horror I've ever seen, and it feels very like on purpose. But it is. This movie's obscene. It is an insane, out there movie. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think that it's amazing that something like this can be made. Yeah. It makes me so happy that there's horror movies out there, and it does kind of remind you that there is a lot of like tame stuff out there. Yeah. So I would very much recommend going and seeing it. It's hard to say. I said it's hard to recommend. Just be prepared. I think it's worth... I hope it makes money, is what I'm saying. So go see it so it makes money, or buy a ticket and don't see it. But be prepared. Like, it is out there, and it is gross, and you're going to feel gross. And you might gag a little, but if that's what you're looking for.
And I was going to say, like, I normally don't like body horror when that is, like, the type of horror I'm sitting down for. It's why I'm just not choosing to sit down for that. And that's part of why, like, stop motion just wasn't for me, because I thought there was, like, a lot of gratuitous body horror that didn't really contribute to the plot or the themes. I just thought it was icky for no reason. And this, I will say, while there is a lot of body horror, and while it does get, like, grosser by the minute. I think it's all in service of the plot and the themes. So for me, it's easier to sit there and stomach it because that's not the whole thing. It's not the later Saw movies where there's barely story and you're just watching torture porn.
Whoa. The later Saw movies are like a soap opera. Don't tell me there's no plot. But yes, it's like soap opera with fun traps with disgusting imagery in between.
Yeah, but this is like mostly plot with like some nasty to look at in there. But like you could enjoy it, I think, without... Like, if you looked away, you could still enjoy it.
This gets into your brain in a different way where it's not that it's exactly always nasty to look at. It's that you start thinking about it happening to you. And that's what, like, really gets me. Is, like, because I saw it on screen, I think about it being me. And that's where I get, like, disgusted. Like, the gross things happening. You know what I mean? I don't really feel that way with the Saw movies, typically. Okay. Well, you want to start spoiling? We'll do our 15-second summaries and then full summary?
Yep.
All right, cool. You want to go first?
Yeah.
All right. Let me pull up. Sorry, I just got a work text and it distracted me. On a Saturday. All right, I got it. Ready?
Okay.
Go.
Older woman who is insecure about her body and her beauty and her age uses drug to look like a hot youth, but then ends up making herself look uglier.
There you go.
And feel uglier.
Okay, you ready? Demi Moore gives birth to Margaret Qualley, but they're the same person, and then the one that's prettier, never was starting over.
Oh my god,
that's
Matt,
like the whole point.
Matt,
the one that she thinks is prettier. Margaret Qualley, who thinks she thinks is prettier, wants to live her life, and then the one that believes Demi Moore thinks that she is uglier and doesn't want to go out, and then they end up infighting. And then Margaret Qualley takes more time. I don't know.
I'm going to give myself the win.
Yeah, saying prettier. That was how she felt about it. She saw herself as prettier as Margaret.
Yeah.
But it's 15-second summary. It's hard. Okay.
Give us the full plot.
Full summary.
Synopsis.
Here we go. Okay, so the movie opens with the life cycle of Hollywood Walk of Fame of a Hollywood Walk of Fame star. This particular star belongs to Elizabeth Sparkle, an Academy Award-winning actress and host of a long-running aerobics TV show, who is fired on her 50th birthday for allegedly being too old. She is subsequently involved in a car accident after seeing one of her billboards being taken down. At the hospital, she receives a flash drive from a male nurse labeled The Substance, which promotes a serum that, when injected, creates a younger, more beautiful, more perfect version of the user, though the two are still connected as one. After some deliberation, Elizabeth orders and injects the product, single-use activator, causing a younger version of herself to be born from a slit in her back. The younger form, adopting the name Sue, must inject herself with stabilizer serum extracted from the spine of the unconscious Elizabeth each day. The two are required to switch bodies every 7 days without exception, with one resting unconsciously and the other living out in the real world. Sue is hired back onto Elizabeth's old show and quickly ascends to new heights of fame and admiration. When Elizabeth is forced to switch bodies with her, however, she continues to struggle with a deepening sense of inadequacy, loneliness, and low self-esteem. The contrast between Elizabeth and Sue grow increasingly stark. Elizabeth begins indulging in overeating and alcohol, while Sue indulges in her fame and addictively extracts more stabilizer to avoid having to switch bodies, causing Elizabeth to age rapidly. Elizabeth contacts the supplier, who tells her that she can either keep obeying the switches or terminate the substance, neither of which will restore her past appearance. Elizabeth relents and continues to abuse the substance as Sue. As weeks pass, Elizabeth is reduced to a haggard elderly woman due to Sue's addiction. When Sue is invited to host a highly anticipated live New Year's Eve special, she extracts enough stabilizer to be used for 3 months. However, on the eve of the special, Sue runs out of stabilizer and is forced to switch back to Elizabeth. To her horror, she is now a hairless, deformed hunchback. Desperate, Elizabeth disguises herself in a heavy clothing and obtains a new serum to terminate Sue's existence. However, still yearning to feel admired by fans, she stops at the last second and revives Sue, rendering both of them conscious and severing their connection. Upon seeing the near-empty termination serum, Sue kills Elizabeth before leaving to host the New Year's Eve show. Unable to stabilize herself due to Elizabeth's death, Sue's body begins to rapidly deteriorate, with her teeth and fingernails and ears falling off. In a bid to save herself, Sue tries to create a new version of herself with a leftover activator. Instead, she inadvertently creates Monstro Elisu, a grotesque hybrid of the two. Elisu goes to the live broadcast and shocks the audience. The horrified spectators erupt in violent chaos, culminating in the hybrid's head getting decapitated, grotesquely regenerating and bursting with blood. As the audience becomes drenched in Eliza Sue's blood, the hybrid manages to escape outside before collapsing into a pile of entrails. The face of the original Elizabeth emerges from the remains as a blob crawling towards her neglected star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Elizabeth finds solace by positioning herself on the star and gazing at the stars, eventually merging with the star as she melts. The next day, her bloody remains are cleaned up by a floor scrubber. And then it cuts to black. And that's how it ends.
Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there that this movie, the like end sequence with all of the blood gushing in the theater was really giving Carrie to me.
I was thinking that at the same time. Yeah, it very much felt like it was influenced by Carrie, which makes sense because I do think there's some thematic overlap there.
And this one's a stupider comparison, but the end scene where her like head blob like crawls away onto the star was giving in Pirates of the Caribbean to when
I know what you're talking about. One of the fish guys.
The fish guy loses his head and it's a crab and it crawls away.
I was going to say it reminded me of The Thing, but
well,
we can go with
it's
that.
probably when we're thinking about horror influences, it's probably that. Duh, but like I grew up on Pirates of the Caribbean being like my favorite franchise and my favorite everything. So that's
So
of course where my brain went. I thought it was I absolutely love the decision to begin and end with the Hollywood Walk of Fame star. Like how her star begins so pristine and beautiful, just like when she is young and youthful, and as she ages, the star ages and cracks. But at the end, she ultimately realizes that the star was beautiful and peaceful to her all along.
Yeah. And then she
goes... She is beautiful.
Yeah. And then also she stares at the stars on the star. Like kind of reminding herself that she does kind of come to peace at the end and then dies.
Yeah. Well, she had to die. Like the whole movie, you're like, okay, when's she gonna die? And I really thought she was gonna die sooner. Like I did not expect the last 20 or so minutes of this movie to go the way it did because it just hadn't reached that level of camp yet. So when she is trying to terminate Sue and then she plugs in her like IV to like revive Sue, I thought that was going to kill her because the termination serum was going to go to her.
No, instead they were separated.
And then instead it just like it goes totally batshit. But then once Sue goes to use the serum, I was like, oh my god, she's going to make the most fucked up, incestual, crazy, double, triple, gross monster thing.
I had been waiting for that the whole time. I was like, okay, well, when's she going to try to create another younger version? And then eventually it did happen. And it was way more insane than I expected with Monstro Ella Sue.
Well, it was disgusting looking. Everyone in the audience, once that thing appeared, everyone started like hiding more so. It
was
than
hiding and then also laughing though. It was a really
like
weird
giggling,
mix.
I would say.
I wanted to say, and we didn't say it earlier, the practical effects in this movie are like god tier.
They're so good.
Really,
They're so good.
really good. Really makes you just feel disgusting. And I think that's what I was saying when it like. There's a part where Demi Moore's finger starts to age rapidly more than anything else, and she freaks out, and that's when I see it on myself, and I'm like thinking about like that happening to me, and it's just such a good tangible practical effect. And then obviously like near the end, Ella Sue is like it is Demi Moore, I think, in a costume.
It's an abomination,
partially. And it's tangible.
Hunchback her is 100% Demi Moore.
It almost looks like the bad guys in the Power Rangers when I was a kid, like how they were always a practical. You know what I'm talking about? They were like guys in suits.
Power Rangers. I'm sorry.
Okay, what's a better example? It reminds me of the first Spy Kids movie where the dude's face gets all messed up and deformed.
Oh yeah.
I think that was practical. It looks practical, but it just like when you have something tangible, it works so much better for your brain, even if it doesn't look realistic. I think having it tangible in camera makes it feel more real. So. Shout out to practical effects for that.
Yeah, whoever was in charge of practical effects for this movie deserves all the nominations and awards, and they won't get them because it's a horror movie. And again,
we'll see.
That's just not how horror seems to go.
We'll see. They could get best makeup
during award season, but this movie deserves it 1,000%. Like, you think Curious Case of Benjamin Button did good. This is doing crazier shit the whole movie. Honestly, I'd put it in like the same league of like, well done.
Yeah, I mean...
Benjamin Button is, like, iconic, amazing, deserved the award. I'm not shitting on that. Well, I'm just comparing.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, I will keep saying I'm just happy something like this can get made.
Well, because it is so fucking crazy and out there compared to everything else that's been put out
even
this
the horror
season.
Space right now. Yeah, you're saying in the horror space. Yeah, things have been, other than I saw the TV glow, it's been pretty tame. I mean, I loved Oddity, and I said that, and it's definitely different, but it's not this different.
Oh, no. Yeah. So when we saw Cuckoo, my first response was like, well, that was really weird. That's the weirdest movie I'll see this year.
Nope.
And then I walked in out of The Substance and I was like, well, damn. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
This, Cuckoo has nothing on this shit. Like, you think the craziest thing that happened this year was someone making like a bird-human hybrid. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. It was this grotesque monster thing launching blood all over a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And Dennis Quaid eating shrimp.
That was pretty scary.
Honestly, again, scariest part of the movie.
Tell me what else you liked. We said the way it's filmed was great. And we like this kind of surrealist plus maximalist light style.
Yeah. The coloring, again, that's tied in with that. Stunning, fisheye lens, wild, and yeah, I think it really like makes things look heightened or like surreal with the way it's shot. Performances, we already went through that. I feel like we went through
the longest.
like everything.
I'm not editing that out.
Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I was saying I think the three leads are all really good, and it's funny because I like I said, haven't seen Demi Moore in much. I thought she was phenomenal. I think Margaret Qualley is really good, but like stacked up next to her in this, like Demi Moore was stealing every scene she was in.
Well, and I think that's the nature of the role. And
for sure.
The script.
No, I think Margaret Qualley is very good. I didn't even recognize her voice. Like she put on a completely different kind of like ditzy voice than I'm used to. And Dennis Quaid, we haven't seen him much. I guess he just played Reagan, which I heard he was really, really good in that movie, but I don't know much about that movie. Or if it is a good portrayal or bad. I mean, I would hope it was a realistic portrayal.
Well, Jack Quaid has come out and said he disagrees with Dennis on some things, so I stand with Jack Quaid, and therefore, boo Dennis!
Dennis was really good in this,
but Dennis was great in this.
He played the perfect little dirtbag. Also, they named him Harvey.
Oh, I did not notice that.
I said that to you last night. I was like, his name's Harvey. You didn't, yeah.
No. Wow, so deliberate.
For those of you who don't know what we're saying,
disgusting.
we're talking about Harvey Weinstein is clearly what they're trying to name him after.
That's disgusting.
And he was really gross. He was the one that was like, we got to get this bitch out of here. She's 50, she's old, it stops working after then. And he's really gross.
And then hypersexualizing Margaret Qualley, obviously. And
what's he say to her? Women are always better. Pretty women are always better when they smile. They say that a bunch.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's the classic thing that women are always told. Like, smile, honey.
Smile more. Yeah.
So that fit right into this story, again, about women's appearance and, like, how other people judge us and how we judge ourselves based off societal standards. So
should we... I don't know if we want to get to themes because we kind of did talk a lot about what we liked already.
Can we talk really quick about how we feel about the nudity in this and how bodies were shown?
I have a lot of feelings on this, yeah. Well, me first then.
Yes.
So I felt it was interesting where I thought going full frontal for Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley would be very like sexualized, and it's supposed to be. Oh, you're putting it was... not exactly that. It almost felt robotic. It was so pristine and these insane like close-ups and like trying to show you the money shot or whatever you want to the point where it was almost like uncomfortable and robotic, and it just became not like sexual again in my mind. It was very much just like a body's a body here, and I don't know if it's like it was so like flawless or what they were able to do to achieve it. I couldn't explain why it did this, but it at some point, like I said, became like more robotic than human again.
Well, I think with Sue specifically, the way they zoom in on various body parts moves past the point of like hot curves and to the degree of like
skin. It's
skin, and it also just like unsettling. Like human bodies, when we put them all together and like, yeah, that's pretty or attractive or like whatever characteristics you might attribute to a human body. But if you just like pull apart human features and you're like, this is an ear, this is a nose, this is an ass cheek, like it doesn't hold the same like value as like a constructed body. And so I feel like because of that, it becomes like more scientific, like you were saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I have a really good article for everyone out there to read. What did I read? It was on like Blood Knife or something was the name of it. It was Everyone is Beautiful and No One is Horny. It's something like that. And it was this idea of in modern filmmaking, specifically, I think it really started in the Marvel movies, every man and woman is this tightly crafted like sculpture of a person, and they don't use their bodies for anything. Like they're attractive, but you don't know why they're attractive, because obviously it all comes down to sex. Like that's what it is. But you know, it's sterile. It's this idea of like everyone, like you said, they're basically, these men are dehydrated completely, like clearly like roided out, but they're not actually using these bodies for anything other than to be looked at. It's like a functionless body, which is what I think becomes the case with this movie, is they end up becoming like almost functionless. Like we have to remember that the attractiveness that comes from this really does end up coming down to sex, right? And that's like, I think when we're talking about specifically bodies in this situation. And I've had it compared to, and that's kind of the world we're living in right now, is that form is more important than function. You look at like these houses that people build up really quick, and they're like these beautiful empty homes that are functionless and fall actually like structurally shit on the inside. I've also had people kind of, this might get a little extreme, but link it to the rise in fascism among populations.
Okay.
A lot of that has to just do, I think if you look at a movie like, I can't think of it, Starship Troopers, that is like a big part, is everyone is like these beautiful, perfectly sculpted people, and that's all we see it as. We can't go a step beyond. We can't go to like this emotional connection beyond. And I would say a lot of movies right now, especially in blockbusters, are that. Not everyone's beautiful, no one's horny. And that's the thing. Like there's never the thought of beyond just the eye candy of it. And that's kind of what you get in this movie. Although there is some like sex that happens in the movie. It's for us, it's the viewer on the TV, it's just an object. And there's no passion beyond that. So yeah. Sorry, that's my rant.
Okay.
What do you think? You follow?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Everyone should read that article. It's quite good.
Maybe we'll post it somewhere.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Do you want to talk themes now?
Sure.
Ready?
That was kind of themes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I butchered that article, but if you read it, you'll understand. The link to fascism thing makes sense when you read it, but I'm going to struggle to give you good examples.
I spaced on that part to be honest. I don't know if you were coherent or not, because I was in space on my own. Well,
it's more about how like it's like the form over the function. It's the idea of like pristine society, clean, neat, perfect society. And it doesn't acknowledge that there is actual like people within it, and there are feelings and emotions and, like I said, passion. It's all about aesthetic.
Okay, yeah. Yes. Okay, I understand that.
Yes, sorry.
I understand its relevance to this movie now. Yes. Sorry. I'm back from the clouds.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
So this movie is very much about the scrutiny that women feel, period, but especially the scrutiny that women feel as they age. And because a lot of beauty expectations, like what makes a person beautiful, is all things that would be attributed to a young person. Quote unquote, what makes someone beautiful. And so I think I've even seen this discussed recently. This is going to be a funny tangent, but the Golden Bachelorette right now, Joan, one of the things that she said is like, dating when you're older, like, makes you feel invisible. Like, there's something about existing as an older person that makes you feel invisible, because the beauty standards, the dating standards, the relationship standards, sexual standards, like, all of that is very different when you're in an older age versus a younger age. And I think that's very clear here with Demi Moore.
Very much so.
And meanwhile, like, men like Dennis Quaid's character can be disgusting fucking pigs, and they don't get nearly the same level of scrutiny that women do. Like, he's sitting out there eating, like, shrimp and, like, shrimp's flying.
His teeth are completely disgusting from smoking, but it doesn't matter because the standards for men are completely different. Because men are usually going to be judged more on personality and ability, not even to some degree, than women are, where it's very much about looks.
100%.
Especially in the industry. Like, the ideal woman according to the industry, is an 18-year-old. Like, let's think about how gross that is. Where, like, the ideal man for a lot of women is probably like a man in his 30s or 40s. Well, or actually, women tend to continue to find men attractive into, like, later, elderly, where women basically are a bit told that they have a 5-year gap. You know, where
well, I mean, like, let's think about some of the men that are huge movie stars, or at least carry, like, huge weight in Hollywood, like Steve Buscemi. A woman could not look like the female equivalent of Steve Buscemi and be a famous Hollywood actress.
Yes,
that
100%.
just isn't going to happen.
And when it has happened, it's usually because they're like considered overweight by standards and they're criticized for it throughout. And like, yeah, Steve Buscemi's an unpleasant looking man, but I think like he's able to put on that charisma that you're like, you know what, he is good looking. Again, it's like this kind of, like you said, men are just held to a completely different standard. And I think that that's maybe women are more forgiving of men's looks than men are to women's as a whole. Right?
Yeah, I mean, let's just think about the male gaze.
Yes.
Compared to the female gaze.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously that thematic element is super present throughout the entirety of this movie. I think it's pretty on the surface that is what the movie is trying to say and tell us.
And I did want to say, though, they kind of do, the filmmaker kind of hits us with a not all men kind of situation. I do appreciate that a little bit because it is more about the industry, although I do think a lot of men feel this way. But there is a suitor out there that says to her, like, and he's a little awkward and goofy, but he's like, you're still the prettiest, like, he met her in high school. He's like, you're still the prettiest girl I've ever seen. And
like he's in shock
it's like that
she speaks to him.
Yeah, and there is like, there are people out there that feel that way. And maybe this is more about, it's about the industry, but also like women's perception of themselves because of the industry and because of beauty standards portrayed in the media. Because there clearly are people out there that think she's beautiful. And like, there's this wonderful moment, and this is where I got really sad.
Is this the date moment?
When he calls her. Yeah, and she's like smiling, and she's like, seems like, and she looks, I mean, Demi Moore is already beautiful, but she looks even more beautiful because you can tell that there's someone out there that makes her feel that way too. And like, makes her think she's beautiful, and she looks even better than, because she's all like giddy and happy. And then she ends up not feeling comfortable enough to go out. It's horrible. She's like trying to redo her makeup and she doesn't go, and stands him up. And from that point on, I was deeply, deeply sad for the rest of the film. Well,
and I think the comparison point of like, again, how the media makes us feel like we can only be, like, beauty is youth, is that inherent tie and that inherent like comparison, like we have to compare ourselves to other people constantly to feel good or know what to do with our makeup or our hair or whatever. I think that's shown pretty clearly because she keeps looking at the poster board of herself,
of her younger self,
and then changing her makeup every time she looks, to the point where, like you said,
that's
she
the same
eventually
thing
decides
as
not to go.
You going on Instagram and seeing some Instagram model that's clearly using a filter and feeling like, why don't I look like that? Or seeing a TV ad. Although I do think we're not perfect, but I think we're kind of getting past that time to some degree, right? Like there is a more room for women of all like shape, sizes, and looks to be in TV, be in commercials, and be beauty standards, which is awesome. It's still not great. As
it should be.
It's still not great, but I am saying like we are heading in that direction, hopefully.
Yeah, like you don't have to be a 000 to be on TV.
Yeah.
You can wear a size 6.
Let's go back. Yeah, think about back to the 90s.
Yeah.
That's why low-waisted shorts were so in.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, think about it.
I will never get on board.
Can I jump to another theme, or do you have more to say about this one? Because I have one that I saw on the internet that I really liked. No?
Oh, I just wanted to add really quick on this. I guess it's like more related to this theme that we were talking about. Is I like that Margaret Qualley, her body was enhanced for this movie.
I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? I don't know.
Because women's bodies aren't perfect.
Enhanced.
Even someone as gorgeous as Margaret Qualley, who's actively beautiful outside of this movie,
and talented,
to be the perfect beauty standard for this film, had to be modified.
Yeah. That it does make sense.
The beauty standard had to be
very
modified
relevant.
to be, yeah.
And I was looking at her. Maybe this is bad by me, and I was like, I don't think that's her. Like, and I could tell, which is maybe I said gross on my part, but that is like enhanced. But you said before, it's almost like so enhanced to the point where it's like not attractive again, because it's like so perfect and pristine and
because real people
useless.
Don't look like that.
Yeah, real people. You're right. Real people don't look like that. There is no. Like, again, it's like I'm going back to the article I was talking about. It is all form, no function.
Tell me about your theme.
So the other one I saw that I really liked was the idea of mother-daughter relationships and how, in reality, how Demi Moore's character is the mother to the younger Margaret Qualley's character, and obviously she's like born from a slit in her back. You know, that kind of fits there. And I actually think the Barbie movie talks about this, which is funny, which is the idea of that moms stop in place to send their daughters forward, right? So a lot of the times moms put their life on hold and stop where they are to allow their daughters to keep going and progress. Do you remember that in the Barbie movie? And I think that's what we see here. And what this is kind of saying is that that's not a good thing, because it leads to this like resentment where the mother has to basically end her life at the point of having a daughter to provide and be fed off by her daughter to get them to the heights that she could never achieve. And it leads to, like I said, mother resenting their daughters for getting to where they couldn't, and ends up leading to like a disastrous relationship between the two. And I do think that is like a common thing in our society, right? What do you think?
Been there, home dog.
Yeah, I think it's... And I really kind of like that. And it's obviously they do feed off each other, and the daughter takes more and more and more, and it ages mom, right? And it like takes from her. And then if you don't have that kind of like healthy relationship, it will lead to like turmoil. And I think the idea of moms wanting to be their daughters or trying to live through their daughters is very much a thing. I mean, hell, look at that. What was that show? Cuties and shit like that? Or what was...
I don't know what you're referring to.
The one about like the dancers, the pageant girls.
Dance Moms?
It might have been Dance Moms. No, there was one called Cuties that they did a documentary on.
Okay.
Maybe I'm misremembering what it was.
Okay.
But you see it there where moms are trying to like project themselves onto their kids and force them into things that they don't want because they're trying to like try to live vicariously through them. So it's kind of that mix. What do you think? You like that one?
Yeah, I
thought that
see
was pretty neat.
I also think that this movie is saying a lot about like our relationship with food.
Oh, true. Yes.
Because
women specifically.
Yeah, women specifically.
Not men at all. Well, it is.
Because there are no male
There's no boundaries
characters, so we wouldn't really know if they're trying to apply that to anyone but women. But Elizabeth, starting off the movie, we see her drinking a lot, like alcohol. She has 4 martinis. The only thing we see her eat is a single olive. We see her maybe eat eggs, and she's like disgusted by them. And I don't think she like finishes her plate. Like that's all we're seeing her eat. And we don't start seeing her eat until she starts becoming resentful of her younger,
more perfect self,
Sue. And that's where we start to see her, actually pursuing food, but it's completely unhealthy the way she's going at it, like to the point of binge
it's basically
eating
self-harm.
and
she's like trying to do
food. Yeah,
she's trying to do self-harm to her perfect counterpart, but only hurting herself because they are one, as they're reminded throughout.
And I think that scene where Sue is pulling the chicken leg out of her belly button that Elizabeth ate. Because they are one, that is like her having like this stress nightmare about her relationship with food and the guilt she feels over just eating. Which, like, even if the food's not healthy, you're allowed to eat.
Not in this industry.
Exactly.
That's probably why she doesn't eat in front of a man either, because that's like
when they go out to lunch and he's eating and she's
gorging himself on shrimp
there. Yeah.
Or prawns, whatever they were. Yeah. Okay.
What do you think about the scene where she's making the French food?
She was meant to look like a witch, is all I kept thinking. I was like, this feels very like witch vibes with her, with the hair and stirring the pot. And so I wasn't really sure. That's kind of just what it felt. That's all I could think about in that point. So I don't know. I mean, clearly she's trying to it's another self-harm situation because it is just her that has to clean it up.
Well, and I think like the turkey that she's like...
that rips the guts out of. Yeah.
Is supposed to be like what we do to women's bodies.
Elaborate. Can you?
Well, she's sitting there like we have this like very, very, very extended shot of her playing with this turkey, which the color of the turkey looks like human skin and all of that. So I do think it's like supposed to be this imagery of like how we torture, manipulate ourselves to fit this beauty standard. Like, she didn't need to be doing that so long.
Yeah. And then she kind of had done that to herself earlier with the makeup, where she starts like scraping her face, and that was a very uncomfortable scene. Yeah, I think you're right. It's like the way we dress ourselves up, or women are expected to manipulate themselves. Mm-hmm. Oh, I also don't think we said this, but do we not also see the substance as kind of just a metaphor for like Botox, plastic surgery, things like that as well, and like the lengths that we'll go to like mutilate ourselves?
Yeah, I feel like it's a given, but
okay, sorry. Well, it wasn't said.
But yes, we didn't say that specifically.
The needles, the injection, it's all the idea of not allowing ourselves to age gracefully because we need to meet a certain standard that an industry has required.
Well, and I'm just thinking about this most recent season of Love Island UK, season 11. There were so many posts of people, of like plastic surgeons guessing how old these women are. And they'd be like 45. And they're like, this woman is 23. Because they're using all of these products to try and look youthful and perfect, but it doesn't always have that effect. It like this constant need we have to look like what is supposedly perfect is damaging to ourselves.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I would also say those women are still beautiful. I would not take that away from them, but I also think they were probably beautiful before they got all the work done.
Agreed.
And they probably looked 23 before
I think that's also the point that Demi Moore is like beautiful from the beginning.
Yes.
And like feels the need. They do a lot of like close-ups to show her like wrinkles and stuff, but like it's like she's still pretty, and like you're pretty when you age gracefully.
That's what made me so sad is like the first scenes we get of her is like her dancing, and she's in
she looks great.
Yeah, like a leotard that I'm like, I wouldn't want to be in public wearing that, and I am how much younger than Demi Moore right now. Like she looks amazing. So it's like even more depressing to see like someone who like actively is beautiful feeling like they're not enough. But I mean, that is how we feel. We always put this pressure on ourselves to be different than we are.
Well, anything else we got on themes? I think we nailed most of them. I feel like we nailed it. Yeah. I mean, that's all that's there. I think it is on the surface, and it kind of needs to be. And I enjoyed that. Oh, there is also some level about like the Monstro Elisu, like basically morphing yourself on the stage to what is expected of you by men and audiences. Like that's...
Oh, I thought it was so sad when the monster takes the photo of original Demi Moore, original Elizabeth, and puts that on her face. Because that's her realizing she was beautiful the whole time. Yeah. That was devastating. Like, genuinely, that is the scene that made me feel the worst.
I actually realized we should talk about the Carrie ending and the links to Carrie.
Okay, go.
So, obviously, the scene with the blood and everyone getting is very much...
The vibes are...
Like,
yeah.
And I guess because Carrie is also, in some ways, a movie about, like, self-esteem and expectations. Because Carrie is, like, an odd girl, and she's supposed to be in the book. Like, I guess not. Like, she's supposed to be, like, overweight and things like that. And has that moment of, like, feeling beauty. Turns out it was, like, all pulled on her. Actually, it wasn't even. Remember, that's the thing is they dump the blood on her, and she sees them all laughing at her, but she's not. It's the pressure she puts on herself and the expectation she has for herself. So she lashes out and, like, kills everybody in there. In this situation, I think it's the same thing. Is she's hallucinating throughout, thinking that either people hate her or people think she's beautiful and everyone thinks that she's there for them. So I think that's like supposed to be our link there is like again, just another expectation on women in the way that they need to look. So that was fun though. Or just because she was like, I like Carrie and this feels thematically linked. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do a Carrie.
Well, and I think it fits the level of camp that we're at that point too. So I'm cool.
Yeah, I guess it is camp. I didn't want to use that word because I would guess I was using maximalism instead, but it is kind of, it's funny. It's a black comedy. Like it is supposed to be funny and unsettling and scary. It's a great mix. I saw a tweet. I think I sent it to you and you sent it to me.
Oh, I want to
about this is from Oh Dear Dinner. The substance should have audience cams in every screening where you can take a printed pic of your face on a key ring like they do at Disneyland rides.
Yes.
And I was thinking like what mine would have been because there was a point where I was just like head in hands, jaw dropped.
1,000%.
And like just for an hour, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, here's my face.
It was a very genuinely fun movie to look around the theater and see how other people were reacting.
It was fun. It was a fun. That's what's weird to say is it was a fun movie. Mm-hmm. It was. I don't know if I want to see it again anytime soon, but it was quite fun.
Yeah, I don't know if it didn't go to like the extreme lengths that it goes to, if it would be as fun. I think before that it was just maybe too sad, and now it gets to this point of like, it is really sad, but it's funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I think we hit the themes on the head.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing was that she goes to the star and does, you said before, realizes that like, no, she had it in herself all along. The only respect or the only admiration she needed was her own. Oh, I did want to say, I think it's so funny that she can't think higher than just being on an aerobic show. That's even funnier about it. Like, even as she becomes this new beautiful self. She was an Academy Award winning actress at one point, but she still can't go beyond the fact that I just want to be in my aerobic show for morning TV. You know? What do you think? No? Nothing on that? Oh, well, I thought it was very funny. I thought that was like very much on purpose. Was that like even that she can't go beyond just that?
Well, because would society have let her?
Maybe, but I'm saying she can't even dream bigger than that. It's like she wants to go back to have what she had before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get to... Ratings. Oh, do we do favorite scenes?
We didn't, but I don't know if I have one, so I was just letting it pass.
Oh.
What's your favorite?
I really like the scene where she's looking in the mirror and trying to redo her makeup, because the whole time I was like, please just go on the date. Yeah. I was like, it'll save you. This man that adores you will fix you.
Well,
I know that that's not actually the case, but it was either. Like she was. Yeah, you're right, because she's trying to gain her self-esteem out of another person. But
a man, especially.
I just was hoping in my head. I was like, maybe this will help her see if she can go on this date with somebody that sees beauty, and with her or within her, she'll be able to see her own beauty, mm-hmm. right? Like maybe she does just need someone to make her feel like beautiful again. I don't know. So I was just devastated when she wouldn't go on that date. And
I knew she wasn't going.
Oh, I knew she wasn't, but I wanted to believe, and so it hit me even harder when she wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, you don't want to do a favorite scene?
I truly don't know if I have one. I have scenes that like, I feel like so much of the movie stood out to me that it's hard to like narrow it down, honestly.
Okay. Well,
so I'm just not going to bother.
Let's just rate it then.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know why I can't give it higher. I think it's because, I don't know, it's not perfect. It's really good, though.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's very, very good. 8.5 is very good.
Yeah, I've been oscillating between an 8 and an 8.5. My initial... For some reason, I thought 8, but then I was thinking about other things I've given an 8, and I was like, this is better than those.
It's hard to compare because, as I keep saying,
there's nothing like this.
I'm sure there is, but like not in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy that something like this is being made. I've said that like 4 or 5 times. Yeah. But like, movies are awesome. This is that kind of movie that you watch and you're just happy you get to go see movies. Mm-hmm. It makes me so happy that I get to go and experience someone's art and experience the human condition.
Yeah.
There's someone else. That's why AI can never make movies, because you have to be able to experience the human condition to create art, in my opinion. Well, with that being said, we got nothing else to say. You rated it. I rated it. We liked it. I go see it, maybe?
You should go see it.
I liked it. I don't know if it's for everybody, as we've said before. It's definitely not for everybody, but pay for it.
Yeah. You should definitely see it. Go in without much information, although if you've listened to this point, you might have all the information.
You're allowed to hide. You can hide your eyes. I didn't hide once. There were a couple times that I like started to, and I was like, no, I'm staring it down.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I'm all wrapped up. I'm done here. It's Saturday. Let's go party.
Well, you're Matt.
You're Hannah.
I'm anxious also because of the American beauty standard, the world beauty standards.
Oh, sorry, for everyone out there, we're on TikTok Live right now. So if you want to, we're going to start doing TikTok Live while we record. So we'll have video. So maybe you'll see us argue when we have to pause in between. That'd be fun. But we're all done here.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!